Talk about football.
Hello, people. You are getting this episode one way or another. This is our third attempt. We fall started twice. This one's sure to be the best one yet. Thank you for joining us. I'm Hayden. That's Andy. We're here a day after Super Bowl 56, and I feel fatter than 50 Cent. I put on at least 7 pounds of chicken wing dip and Red Baron frozen pizza and IPAs and rye whiskey yesterday. Good Lord, am I feeling it. Andy, how you doing, buddy?
Not much better, but boy, that combination, when you say it out loud, does sound atrocious. I'm sure it was delicious in the moment. The Super Bowl day after always hurts, especially so when it's Valentine's Day. I'm just kidding. Happy Valentine's Day to all the lovers out there, football lovers and romantics alike. Thank you for joining us if you're here. My dinner reservations are ticking. They're coming up faster than Jamar Chase burning Jalen Ramsey down the sideline. One of the many highlights we'll talk about from Super Bowl 56, which played in favor of the Rams, of course, beating the Cincinnati Bengals 23-20. We're going to talk about that and more. First, we like to do some shout outs. So I'd be remiss not to mention a boo-boo, a snafu I had last week when Hayden mentioned one Matthew Stafford's birthday. That was, of course, on February the 7th. That was kind of an alley-oop to me. I whiffed on terribly. February the 8th, a day after Matthew Stafford's birthday, is Hayden's. We recently celebrated his 29th year on planet Earth. We are so blessed to have Hayden around for another year. Hayden, buddy, happy birthday. I apologize deeply for missing that.
Greatly appreciated. You're good. Yeah, another trip around the sun, but now pushing 30. Those the gluttonous weekends are catching up a little bit. I am certainly feeling like I'm almost 30 today.
Welcome to the almost 30 club. I can tell you we're only getting older. Things just hurt more, and I don't bounce back as quickly. But God damn it, we're trying. And I also want to shout out our buddy Kevin May. He of the hairline, right? It's he knows I love his hairline because it's like this, and then it just boops. There's rectangles and stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to watch. Kevin, thanks for listening or watching or however you enjoy our platform. Thank you so much for sharing, subscribing. We need more like you. You're a good dude. Holla at you, boy. I miss you. Anyways, the show is called We Like Football, not We Like Kevin May. That's enough about you.
Yeah, Kevin, you've got what you deserve. No, thanks for listening, Kevin. We do appreciate it. Also, shout out to Rams safety Taylor Rapp. He got engaged yesterday. Eric Weddle and OBJ both had tears. Eric Weddle tore his pec and OBJ tore his ACL. So speedy recovery to them. And then Samaria Jefferson left in the middle of the game to go give birth to Van Jefferson's child. So hopefully everything went well there. And congratulations to the Jeffersons.
Yep, moving on up. Lots to celebrate for several LA Rams, but as we mentioned, most important from our optics, of course, is the ring they got to hoist, the second in Rams history, the first for Sean McVay, who I don't think has any plans to retire. He's the youngest Super Bowl winning coach of all time. First ring for Matthew Stafford, who toiled for over a decade in Detroit, mostly losing. That was good to see for him. First ring for Andrew Whitworth, the 40-year-old, the graybeard, stalwart left tackle for so many years. First ring for Aaron Donald, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. Didn't win it this year. That went to my boy TJ Watt. We're going to get into that. But I personally, I hate the Cincinnati Bengals as a fan. I was stoked to see the Rams win. And when you talk about the storylines, good to see a lot of dudes get theirs. Their first rings and join the Pantheon.
Yeah, for sure. The Bengals kind of overachieved all year. It seemed like they really shouldn't have been in the Super Bowl, but they were there and they really made the most of it. I mean, this was a super close game, right? The Rams won 23-20. I thought that, we expected there was going to be some offensive fireworks, but the defense of the Cincinnati Bengals held up as well. They held the LA Rams run game to under 2 yards a carry throughout the entire game. They started off a little slow. I know that the Rams started with 2 touchdowns to start against the Bengals' only field goal, right? But they really picked it up in the second half and really turned it into a game. So just kind of kudos to the Bengals for being there and showing out.
Yeah, honestly, both defenses really played very well, given the offensive cores they were going against. But I want to note here, because we talked last week what would be the difference in the game, and LA's D, especially in that second half, was no doubt the difference. Cincinnati opened up an early second half lead, right, on that T. Higgins 75-yard touchdown, and then the takeaway to set them up again. So at one point they were up, whatever it was, 20-13. Yeah, they were up 20-13. And at that point, LA's D just flipped a switch. Right, the entire second half, they were all over them. They kept giving that offense chances to finally finish the job, come through. And you mentioned that game, Cincinnati D, but they could not hold up at the very end. So I want to just, again, extend kudos to LA's defense, Aaron Donald, Von Miller, the likes. They were all over Joe Burrow. We mentioned that Steve of an O-line could be their undoing, and no doubt it was. That's a credit to the superpower front seven the Rams have built.
Scary. It's friggin' scary. And I mean, kudos to us too, because we both said last week that that would be the difference in the game. Just always being right. That's why you come here. That's why you listen to We Like Football. You bet with us. You don't bet with Mattress Mac. That dude is out $4.5 million, right? Because he didn't listen to the We Like Football podcast. You brought up the opening score in the second half, that T. Higgins. It was a 75-yard score. He just kind of yanked Jalen Ramsey down onto his face. It was really an obvious offensive pass interference that they let go. I was kind of okay with the officiating, because in that moment in the Super Bowl, you want the players to, decide the outcome. You want the refs to let the boys play, so to speak. But I mean, that one was pretty egregious. I felt like T. Higgins got away with one. And then of course the very next play from scrimmage, Chidobe Awuzie, right, gets a pick off of, I believe it was Swaronic, if I'm saying his name right. He kind of dropped the football. Swaronic?
Scoronic.
Not Mike Faronic is really the ultimate thing that we got to take away from here. But yeah, I mean, the Rams ended up doing enough, right, to get the job done at the end. It seemed like the Aaron Donald kind of scuffle over on the sideline when he pushed Joe Burrow out of bounds, which was a totally legal hit, right? And everybody kind of came running to Joe Burrow's aid and started like punching Aaron Donald in the face. I don't know that you necessarily want to piss Aaron Donald off, because he was lights out after that.
Oh, yeah, that galvanized the Rams, I think. And it was like, you didn't realize how big a moment it was. At that point, I had, my fan hat on. I was rooting hard. I was like, yeah, Aaron Donald, you don't take no, right? And then from there on, that Rams front seven just tore it up. The officiating was one of the big talking points. You mentioned that T. Higgins play where he did yank Jalen Ramsey down. That, to me, you kind of look back on that one, because when people were harping on that goal-to-go sequence at the end of the game, where the Rams got several extra chances due to ticky-tack calls, right? There was one, Logan Wilson on Cooper Kupp, which, to be honest, I thought should have not been called. I thought it was a good play on the ball by him. But you see that one, right? And then you look back on T. Higgins yanking Jalen Ramsey, and all right, these things kind of even out. There were some questionable calls on both sides. Like you said, you don't want the refs to enter themselves into the equation so much if they don't have to, not on this stage. But I do think the better team won. I think the Rams inevitably would have punched it in regardless. Cooper Kupp, of course, was nails on that last drive. We gushed about Aaron Donald, Von Miller, the Rams defense. Kudos to LA's offense for coming through in the clutch, right? These teams were trading punts left and right in the third and fourth quarters. You've started to feel like that 20-16 score might hold up the way Cincy's defense was playing. But LA just put together a 19-play, 72-yard nice drive to retake the lead. And Cooper Kupp, who's the one I initially started talking about, was nails on that drive. 4 catches for 39 yards, another carry for 7 on a 4th and 1, and that clinching touchdown catch. So Cooper Kupp, the offensive player of the year, great all year, was money when it counted. The Rams are criticized for, kind of not like building through trades and free agency more so than the draft. Cooper Kupp is one of their homegrown guys. Little known, kind of like the lone underdog of the LA Rams. So it was good to see him come through in the clutch.
Yeah, absolutely a beast. Sean McVay kind of went into his bag in this one. You mentioned that Cooper Kupp had that 7-yard carry. That was on a jet sweep on 4th and 1. You anticipate that the Bengals are going to kind of stack the box, right? Play the middle of the field. So to kind of do that in that spot, took some balls. Also, the touchdown that Cooper Kupp scored on the fade from the 1 yard line. I thought that that was awesome by Sean McVay because the play before he ran a quarterback sneak and got nowhere, right? It's really easy in those situations to be like, okay, my dudes are bigger and badder than your dudes. I'm just going to run my head into this wall for 3 plays and try to score that way. But for him on second down to be like, yeah, no, that's obviously not going to work. We're going to throw this fade to Cooper Kupp. He's going to go get the football, right? Thought that that was good on Sean McVay. On the other side, I know we've gushed over Evan McPherson before. He did hit from 29 and 38 yards out, which tied Adam Vinatieri's single postseason record with 14 made field goals. So kudos to you, Evan McPherson. That was part, I threw that in as like a caveat last week in my prediction. So again, just always being right. Good for me. Good for Evan McPherson.
He also stayed out and watched the halftime show, which I respect the hell out of. I mean, listen, the kicker isn't really an essential part of the halftime show. The halftime adjustments, right, that the coaching staff is making. You don't really need him to discuss the X's and O's on either side of the ball. Evan McPherson, he just drains them down the pipe and fucking kicks the ball off, right? So if you want to watch Snoop and Dre, who I want to take a moment here to say those old heads killed it. K-Dot, Eminem, all right, start, sit, cut, yada, yada. It might still be Dr. Dre, but Dre and Snoop were the stars of that show. Good for those dudes, right? For being cool and fresh as hell at 50, whatever they are.
Oh, the halftime show was remarkable. I know it made a lot of old white people really mad to see rap and hip hop kind of be thrown into the NFL and they all want their rock and roll or whatever. This was an awesome halftime show. I really liked that Evan McPherson stayed out and just kind of sat on the bench and took it all in. Because like you said, I mean, kickers, you're not making halftime adjustments for kickers. You go out, they put the ball down, you kick the ball through the uprights. There's really not any adjustments that do have to be made. I guess there's a couple more things that I at least wanted to touch on about the game, maybe not the players themselves, but that I did really want to throw in here. So Vernon Hargreaves, I saw this after the Cincinnati Bengals got an interception in the end zone. Vernon Hargreaves was not dressed, and yet he came off the bench and ran into the end zone to celebrate with the Cincinnati Bengals. You can't run onto the field of play if you're not in it, but then to not be dressed and to cost your team 15 yards, it's you're probably looking at getting cut there, buddy. Not great on Vernon Hargreaves.
Yeah, colossal boo-boo. One of a few that stick out. On the other one, like you said, and we're just kind of hodgepodge all over, right? Because we don't usually just have one game to talk about open up like this. So there's a lot of different things to discuss. Vernon Hargreaves, colossal boo-boo. For a dude that was on the field and came out of this one smelling not so much like roses, Eli Apple. Oof, he got whooped a couple times. And NFL Twitter was not letting him live it down, deservedly so. That dude was flapping his gums all year long, right? And we talked about that. He was yapping at dudes who are far better than him, like Tyreek Hill, right? So coming out of this one, getting whooped on by Cooper Kupp and the likes, just not a great look for him.
Oh, you love to see it. I saw Mecole Hartman put on Twitter like his Super Bowl ring, and he's like, "It's okay, Eli Apple. You'll never get one of these, but this is what it looks like." Really love the troll job. And then also like one more boo-boo. There was somebody who ran onto the field. Obviously, they don't show it in the broadcast because they don't want to show that dude getting tackled. Average tickets for the Super Bowl costs over $6,000. So then you're going there paying $6,000 to go get arrested on the field. What the hell are we doing, man? Stay in your seat, enjoy the game. Like, you have to be on a waiting list for Super Bowl tickets and you're going to go around on the field. Thought that was remarkable.
Maybe like big brain play. Maybe there was like a prop bet, right, about will or won't there be a Super Bowl streaker, and that man laid money on himself. I don't know. I'm just throwing out hypotheticals. Probably it was an idiotic move. I don't see why you would, especially at that price. But to each his own, that man got on a Super Bowl playing field. Not everybody can say that. So maybe he has the last laugh after all. I don't know. Anyways, back to the pigskin, right, before we jump on to the next topic. Another thing I wanted to touch on is Joe Burrow, gutsy performance coming back after getting walloped all game long. You mentioned, or maybe it was on one of the previous takes that we dumped. I don't know. It's all kind of running together. I got my Super Bowl hangover. Anyway, Joe Burrow, gutsy to come back after getting rolled up on and had an ugly looking knee or ankle injury that saw him getting medical attention on the sideline. But I do think that may have had a difference in the final outcome, right? Because Aaron Donald, we mentioned, was a house of fire. Joe Burrow had great escapability at various points this year. Maybe his mobility was impacted by Cincy's sieve of an O line, allowing him to get rolled up on in that critical moment. Um, Joe Burrow is a stud. He's got an impressive cast of skill players, possibly the best in the league. If they don't address that O line, we've seen what's going to happen. We mentioned this time and again. It rings true. It rang true last year for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, right, against the Buccaneers. If Cincy doesn't address that O line, they are going to waste the career of what could be an all timer based on early impressions.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I don't remember what episode it was, but we talked about, these windows in the NFL, they don't last for very long. You got to pay guys move, things like that, right? If you're not going to address the offensive line for the Cincinnati Bengals, I don't see how they go back to another Super Bowl. It was wild that they were so bad up front this year and then still ended up ultimately getting to the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow had himself a decent day yesterday too. He went 22 of 33, had 263 yards and a touchdown. But yeah, like you mentioned, that last series, right? We're used to seeing Joe Burrow escape. We're used to seeing him being able to kind of move around in the pocket, right? You would think that on that fourth down play, like he would have been able to do that maybe under healthier circumstances, right? So hopefully that injury is not too significant. I haven't seen anything about it today, but I guess we'll kind of keep an eye on it. Cooper Kupp won MVP in this game. He won the receiving triple crown this year. We know that he won Offensive Player of the Year in the NFL awards as well, and then won Super Bowl MVP. Jerry Rice is the only wide receiver in NFL history to do all of those things in his entire career, and Cooper Kupp did that in a single season. His season this year was phenomenal.
Yeah, absolute monster and major difference maker in this one. You mentioned his stats as well as Joe Burrow's. A few other guys worth noting. Joe Mixon, 15 carries, 72 yards, and a touchdown pass.
Nice.
They talked about all these Super Bowl Joes, right? Joe Namath, Joe Montana, even Joe Flacco. Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon joined him in slinging a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Good for him. T. Higgins actually kind of outshined his teammate Jamar Chase with 4 catches, 100 yards, and 2 scores. That one where he yanked down Jalen Ramsey, right? And then the other one on the throw from Joe Mixon. Jamar Chase, 5 catches, 89 yards, and it took some doing to get there, right? He got some highlights, 2 impressive one-handed snags, the kind of things we got used to seeing from him all year long. But Jalen Ramsey, I thought, held his own fairly well in spite of giving up a few bad plays on tape. He competed hard and wound up being a difference in this game, right? Allowing those pass rushers time to drill Joe Burrow by playing good coverage at points when it was absolutely critical. And then on the other side of the ball, Matt Stafford, 26 of 40, 283 yards, 3 tutties, and those 2 picks, which allowed Cincy to keep the game close in spite of getting clobbered up front. And the Rams defense, of course, we touched on a few times. No takeaways, but 7 sacks. They had Cincy behind the sticks all game long. And that, we'll say once more before we move on, was absolutely the difference in this one.
Yeah, I really noticed the one Matt Stafford interception where he's kind of out there like directing traffic and telling dudes where to run and then throwing a pick in the end zone. That was the one where Hargreaves came off the bench. Mentioned that Cooper Kupp won the actual MVP. We like to do the We Like Football stars of the game. Maybe some people who did not win this or who is not Cooper Kupp, although his praises should have been saying 8 receptions, 92 yards, 2 touchdowns. That dude is a monster. Somebody who I noticed was Logan Wilson, barring that last, ticky-tack call. He seemed like he was all over the field. It seemed like they were bringing up his name all night on the broadcast. He had 9 tackles, 8 of them were solo tackles, 3 of them for a loss. So I thought Logan Wilson really showed out in this one. And then, Aaron Donald is just a dude. Aaron Donald is a monster. He had 4 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, and 2 sacks. Saw some talk about him maybe hanging it up because he's accomplished pretty much everything in just a short amount of time. I can't imagine that dude hanging it up. I certainly hope that he's not hanging it up because he is a lot of fun to watch. But those 2 guys kind of stood out to me in this game.
Yeah, clanging and banging on the interior, especially at the level Aaron Donald does, cannot be easy on a human body. You couldn't fault him for hanging him up after building what's no doubt a Hall of Fame resume in 8 years. But it would be a bummer to see a dude of that caliber leave the game that early. I hope he doesn't selfishly, because I want to see him play more. He's a thrill to watch, a transcendent defensive lineman on the interior, right? He's kind of changed the way pass rushes are built. I think interior pressure has become a way bigger factor than edge pressure a lot, especially with how good and how mobile these quarterbacks are. Aaron Donald kind of neutralized Joe Burrow's mobility at critical moments. He, for me, would be my MVP, but obviously the offensive guys get the headlines. Cooper Kupp was a deserving MVP, I think. Aaron Donald's Aaron freaking Donald. But again, kudos to the LA Rams, Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, Andrew Whitworth, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, OBJ, Von Miller, all those guys getting their ring. And boy, when you lay them all out, it's no wonder they won one.
Yeah. And I caught a glimpse of Sean McVay this morning on an interview, or I guess this afternoon, whatever it was. That dude is also feeling a post Super Bowl hangover. So good for you, Sean. Hope it doesn't stick around too much. Last Thursday, moving on a little bit, last Thursday, we got the NFL honors. It was awesome. It was hosted by Keegan Michael Key. He sang a song at the beginning that was just phenomenal. Got some players involved as well. But let's start with the Hall of Fame class of 2022 that was announced on Thursday during that show. What you got?
The group includes Tony Bazzelli, offensive tackle for the Jaguars, their first ever draft pick, a 3-time All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler, 1990s All-Decade team, a stalwart left tackle for the Jacksonville Jags. Cliff Branch, wide receiver for the Raiders with 8,685 career yards, 67 tutties. He's a 3-time Super Bowl champ, 3-time All-Pro. Leroy Butler, safety for the Packers, 889 tackles, 38 picks, 20 sacks, Super Bowl champion, 4-time All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowl, 90s All-Decade. Sam Mills, a linebacker for the Saints and Panthers, 1,300 tackles, 20 and a half sacks, 11 picks. Richard Seymour, stalwart D tackle for New England, 496 tackles, 57 and a half sacks, 7-time Pro Bowler, 5-time All-Pro, 3-time champ. Another D lineman, Bryant Young of the 49ers, 618 tackles, 89 and a half career sacks, 4-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion. The old ball coach, Dick Vermeil, former Eagles lead man, as well as Rams Super Bowl champ and Chiefs, 120 and 109 as head coach. And then lastly, Art McNally, who was affiliated with NFL officiating in some capacity from 1959 to 2015. Obviously not a dude many spectators know of, but clearly played a large hand in how the league officiates its games, being that he was there for 50 some odd years.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I wanted to throw in that Tony Baselli was the first Jaguar ever inducted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You said that, so that's pretty cool. And also just Art McNally. Jesus Christ. Dude, 56 years of officiating in over 3,000 games. Could you imagine the kind of cardio shape that dude must have been in? That dude's heart rate probably never broke like 100 beats per minute. That dude had to be in such phenomenal shape. Kudos to all of these guys. Some names were a little bit more familiar, especially for, younger fans than others. It's got to be so tough to be on the Hall of Fame committee and ultimately select, who gets in and who does not get in, because there's a lot of dudes vying for not a lot of spots.
And that's the thing. I don't know, maybe it's recency bias on my part, because when you look at the snubs, they're all dudes that I kind of grew up watching. Whereas this previous generation, this class of inductees, I should say, with the exception of Richard Seymour, was more so the football generation just before mine. You lay out their accolades. I can't say they aren't deserving, these guys, but you talk about the dudes that didn't make it in this year, and boy, there's some healthy argument to be made for some snubs. Now, let me lay out the guys that didn't make it this year among the finalists. Jared Allen, DN for the Vikings, Chiefs too, 136 career sacks. That's 16th all time. generational pass rusher. Rondé Barber, DB for the Buccaneers. He's been on the waiting list for a couple years now. He had 1,250 career tackles, 28 sacks, and 47 picks.
Jesus.
Yeah, for DBs, he's in a 20 sack, 20 interception club, right? Guys to have done both in their career. There's only a few on that list, so there's something to be said for that as well. Rondé Barber, another guy you could argue was snub. Devin Hester, 20 career return touchdowns, most all time, 2 all decade teams. Devin Hester was electric, probably the best return man the game has ever seen. Trio of receivers didn't make it in, though Cliff Branch did. Cliff Branch came from a different era, but all of Torrey Holt, Andre Johnson, and Reggie Wayne have better career numbers. All 3 were left out in the cold. And then 2 more defenders that didn't make it. Zach Thomas, criminally underrated his whole career, 1,720 tackles. I'll say again, 1,720 tackles. Imagine colliding with that many grown men. That's 5th all time for how long they've been keeping tackle stats, at least. But I can't imagine even beforehand many guys pile up that kind of number. Zach Thomas, another guy you could argue was snubbed, and DeMarcus Ware, 138 and a half career sacks. That's 13th all time, 35 forced fumbles, a Super Bowl champion, a 9-time Pro Bowler. Maybe this is the generation I know better, in fairness, but God, it feels like the voters got it wrong somewhere.
Yeah. And again, it's got to be so tough because recency bias is going to play a factor. These are all dudes that we got to grow up and watch and, grow with football with. So it is tough. You can make the argument for any of them to get in. The one that I will kind of touch on is Devin Hester. I feel like that one would have been tough because this was the first ballot, or this would have been the first ballot that he was on. He would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer if he went in this time. There's only 2 Hall of Famers who even have like returner as a piece of their position. Tim Brown was inducted in 2015 and Deion Sanders in 2011. So, I mean, Hester should get in. He's the best at his position, but I mean, I can kind of see why it didn't happen this year. Some of these numbers are just ridiculous for these other guys. I feel like they're waiting their turn, but yeah, it is tough to make the argument for the other guys that got in versus these guys who did not.
Like I said, when you lay out their accolades, it's hard to argue against. Maybe it's just the star power isn't there. Richard Seymour was a stalwart for years and years. I'm glad he got in because it trends well for Cam Hayward, I think, who has more career sacks than Richard Seymour, also playing an interior D-line spot, but that's a side tangent. These guys were all deserving. Don't get it twisted. It's just, it's criminal to say dudes like DeMarcus Ware and Devin Hester, who were undeniably the best at their positions for a number of years, have to wait. But anyway, clock's a ticking. I got a big date to get to, so we'll move on to some other guys who are the best in their class this year. We'll talk about the NFL awards. I'll reel them off. You can tell me what you think about them. The NFL's MVP was one Aaron Rodgers, who threw for 4,100 yards, 37 touchdowns, 4 picks, and led his Packers to the number 1 seed at 13-4 this year.
Yeah. So I kind of thought that this was a 2-person race for MVP between Aaron Rodgers and, of course, Tom Brady. Tom Brady actually had better numbers than Aaron Rodgers did this year. He had 5,316 yards and 43 touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers took care of the ball a little bit better, only threw 4 picks this year. Does nobody care about vaccinations in 2022? Like, are we just going to gloss over the fact that he was immunized? Aaron Rodgers, that is. I'm totally kidding. So with Tom Brady, I guess maybe this adds another chip on his shoulder. Maybe he comes back in the name of vengeance and glory and comes back to get MVP next year. We'll see.
I cannot imagine Tom Brady retiring and unretiring. That does not seem like a stunt he would pull. But I tend to think Brady got hosed this year. He had 1,200 more yards, 43 touchdowns. He threw more interceptions, but that's the only knock on him. I think, and you can't even argue voter fatigue because both Brady and Rodgers have been named MVP several times. Again, I guess you can't go wrong, but Brady was the MVP for my money. Regardless, the offensive player of the year was Cooper Kupp, who we waxed about, gushed about. As we mentioned, he won the Triple Crown, 145 catches, 1,947 yards, and 16 touchdowns.
Yeah. So, I mean, this was Cooper Cup's award to lose. I guess you can make the argument that Jonathan Taylor might have been more valuable for his team's offensive success this year, especially with the Colts trying to, overcome Carson Wentz's struggles. But the numbers don't lie. Cup was the Triple Crown winner. He deserved this one, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. A lot of these are kind of, you just go down and one guy stands head and shoulders above his peers, like the defensive player of the year, TJ Watt. It's about goddamn time my guy got his. The highest paid defensive player in football, well worth it. 58 tackles, 22 and a half sacks, tied an NFL record. 21 tackles for loss, I believe, was also the best in the league. 7 pass breakups, 5 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries. TJ Watt was a monster all year. Well deserved.
Hell yeah, he was. Yeah, that sly dog Aaron Donald wasn't even able to sneak in with 2 measly postseason sacks that make you mad at me like he did last year to seal that one for him. 7 of the last 10 defensive players of the year have either been named Donald or Watt. That's pretty fascinating. TJ Watt was kind of in a class all his own this year, though.
Yep. And likewise for the offensive rookie of the year, Jamar Chase, 81 catches, 1,455 yards, rookie record, and 13 touchdowns. Mac Jones, Najee Harris, Kyle Pitts, Jalen Waddle. There was a lot of guys who were good. Jamar Chase was on another level. He entrenched himself as arguably a top 5 receiver in year one, not just a top rookie. I can't even imagine an argument for anyone else.
No, I mean, Jamar Chase was phenomenal. I saw this stat that prior to the Super Bowl, in 20 games to start for Jamar Chase, he had 1,734 receiving yards. That's more than Terrell Owens, Devontae Adams, Antonio Brown, and Chad Johnson had in their first 2 full seasons. So that's pretty remarkable. You also mentioned some other guys that were up for this award. According to Chase Goodbread on NFL.com, Jamar Chase got 42 out of the 50 votes. Mac Jones got 5 votes. Najee Harris and Kyle Pitts both got 0 votes. Jalen Waddle got 0 votes. You know who did get the other votes? Chiefs center Creed Humphrey got 2 votes, and Chargers tackle Rashawn Slater got 1 vote as well. I love some offensive line love, especially on Valentine's Day, in a discussion for an award that they will never, ever win, but that was pretty cool to see.
Hell yeah, good for the big men, even if they're never going to get that kind of clout.
No shot.
Nice to see some acknowledgement. Defensive rookie of the year. What else needs to be said? Another runaway. Micah Parsons, linebacker, Dallas Cowboys, 84 tackles, 13 sacks. First ever unanimous defensive rookie of the year, and there's no one else to even argue.
No, unanimous said it all. Yeah, no, they got this one right. Yep.
The comeback player of the year is Joe Burrow. Joe Burr, Frosty Joe, Joe Shiesty, 4,600 yards, 34 touchdowns, 14 picks. You forget he even tore his ACL last year because of how good he was, and also he got to the goddamn Super Bowl. Dak Prescott, I think, was the other guy in the running, but again, no contest.
Yeah, I mean, what Joe Burrow did kind of made us forget that Dak Prescott's foot was once perpendicular to his tibia before he came back this year, put up almost 4,500 yards, 37 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. But Joe Burrow played in the Super Bowl yesterday. He came back, I guess, in a bigger way than Dak Prescott. So this one was pretty right, too.
Yeah, and then lastly, the coach of the year, Tennessee Titans, Mike Vrabel. I think that one has the strongest argument for other guys like Zach Taylor and Matt LaFleur. But you have to acknowledge the Titans overcame key injuries all year. They had a league high 86 players, which was, I believe, a record C game action, and still managed to go 12-5, right? They lost key guys like Derrick Henry, the lifeblood of their team, as well as A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, and Taylor Lewan at points, among several others. Bud Dupree, I know offhand, missed several games. So obviously a nice job done by Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, I feel like it was solidified as soon as Derrick Henry went down that Mike Vrabel was going to win Coach of the Year, to go out and, just continue to win and do well with somebody who's so crucial, so vital to your offense like Derrick Henry. The Titans offense runs through Derrick Henry. I'm not breaking any ground there, but yeah, there was other worthy contenders. Yeah, this one maybe you can make an argument for, but good for Vrabel.
Great bull. All right. I know you have some We Like Football awards you want to get into. The football name of the year, a favorite of ours. What do you got?
Hell yeah. So just shout out to last year's winnow, Teno Peseñon. Good for you, buddy. But the torch is going to be passed a little bit. I don't know if we're going to come to a consensus on this, so we might just have to give that two this year. What we got as far as contenders for it, Cheeto Bay, Awuzie, a lot of fun to say. DiCaprio Boodle, a lot of fun to say as well. And then Jaquiski Tart. Jaquiski Tart. You got one?
My favorite, the one actually, you put Awuzie and DiCaprio on there. My favorite is Jaquiski Tart.
Pardon me.
I know he's been in the league a while. It's always been one of my favorite names. He got a little more attention this year after dropping a would-be interception at a key point in the NFC title game. Jaquiski Tart is my favorite name in football. I don't see that changing anytime soon. He's my winner. Who's yours?
I tend to favor DiCaprio Boodle. Early in the season, I heard this dude's name and I was like, I need to tweet this. I just took a picture of it and put it on our We Like Football Twitter. DiCaprio Boodle is going to get my vote for this one. So good for both of you guys. You deserved it. These are the most prestigious awards in all of sports. So congratulations.
Yep, no slight to Cheeto Bay Awuzie, which we recently learned how to say. That's another fun one. And then lastly, the Fun to Watch Award, the 2021 winner was the big mean fullback, Pat Ricard. A few candidates I've got this year. I mentioned Cam Hayward once already, an absolute joy to watch on the interior. Maybe not Aaron Donald level in terms of rushing the passer, but God, he just bullies guys. He makes defensive line play fun to watch. I always keep an eye on big Cam Hayward. Love that dude. He tugs at the heartstrings. It's Valentine's Day, so he's my favorite. But of course, I'd be remiss not to mention Jamar Chase, who has been a transcendent playmaker in his first year. He makes plays dudes can't. He obviously yesterday in the Super Bowl, we saw him make a couple of one-handed snags. Jamar Chase is set up for success for years to come. Plenty of fun to watch this year, though.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I don't know if Jamar Chase necessarily counts because historically speaking, this award goes to somebody who either is like unsung or kind of flies under the radar. I don't know that I would say Cam Hayward flies under the radar, but, you know, a little bit more unsung playing up front. But I mean, this podcast is basically whose line is it anyway, where the games are made up and the points don't matter. So if you want to throw him in there, he certainly was a lot of fun to watch. My runner up for this is Evan McPherson. He's somebody we gushed over. He was 14 of 14 in the postseason, making his field goals, and you don't typically talk about kickers, so he's on there for me. But I'm also going up front, and there was a little bit of favoritism that played into this as well. My Fun to Watch award this year is Jordan Mailata, the left tackle of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's 6'8", 365 pounds of good God, don't kill me. He gave up 20 pressures in 14 games this year. He was named to Pro Football Focus's All-Pro second team after never playing football before being drafted in the 7th round a few years ago. So he was a lot of fun to watch for me. We are both homers and we both like fat guys. Nice.
I love Cam Hayward. So much fun to watch. Jordan Mailata, another big, mean, ugly, who's a lot of fun to watch. Before we get out of Dodge, we'll play some signature games in the last We Like Football for at least a little bit. So let's end it on a familiar note. Start one, sit one. Aha.
Yeah, we got the hike it or spike it first, I think.
My apologies. Hike it or spike it. Ranch dressing on pizza.
Yeah, so I'm going to spike it because if I'm going to dip pizza that needs help, you know, like the frozen pizza like I had yesterday, or like the shitty pizza that you get after the bar after slugging some suds all night, you know, if it needs a little bit of help, I'm going to dip it in blue cheese. My fantasy football team name is and will forever be blue cheese over ranch. So I'm going to spike this and I'm going to dip my pizza in blue cheese.
Yep, I'm a big spike right along there, right alongside you. If you need ranch on your pizza probably stinks. Pizza does not need to be defiled by ranch. I hope you're listening, Amanda.
Oh God, shots fired on Valentine's Day. Good Lord.
And lastly, start one, sit one, cut one, cardio edition, the treadmill, the elliptical, or the stationary bike.
God, all these make me want to vomit right now where I currently am. I'm going to, I guess, start the elliptical because if I'm going to go inside and do cardio, I'll probably hop on the elliptical for a while, kind of bullshit my way through the work up a little bit of sweat. I'll sit the treadmill because I do like to run, but I don't necessarily like to run on the treadmill. It's super, super boring and you're just kind of there for a while and just waiting for it to be over. But that's still going to be on my team over the stationary bike. Not a huge bike guy. I mentioned like the elliptical, you can kind of bullshit your way through the elliptical. If I'm on the bike, my workout is just horrendous. So I'll cut that one, start the elliptical, and sit the treadmill.
I'm going to agree with you and start the hammer curl because it isolates the long head of the bicep. I'm going to sit the concentration curl because I like the way it makes the veins pop, right? It makes you look more vascular. And then I'm going to cut the preacher curl, because that's where we see the most bicep tears, and that one scares me.
None of those were even on the list, but God damn it, it doesn't matter. Again, the games are made up. The points don't matter. Thanks for listening to us.
We like biceps. We like football. See ya.